Mama, if I wish really, really hard, will the food fairy bring us mac and cheese tonight? The words pierced through the supermarket's din like a prayer whispered in a cathedral. Natalie crouched down, eye level with her daughter Sophie, smoothing the child's tangled blonde hair with fingers that hadn't stopped trembling since the eviction notice arrived that morning. 4 years old, and Sophie already knew to ask the universe for miracles instead of her mother. "Oh, sweetheart," Natalie's voice caught. She pressed her forehead to Sophie's, breathing in the strawberry scent of discount shampoo. "How about we make wish sandwiches tonight instead? You close your eyes, make a wish, and Mama makes the best peanut butter sandwich you've ever tasted." Sophie's gap-toothed smile broke Natalie's heart and mended it simultaneously. "Okay, Mama, I'll wish for the peanut butter to taste like chocolate." Behind them, 3 customers back, a man in a gray Henley shirt and faded jeans stood with his weekly groceries: ramen, instant coffee, bread, eggs. 33-year-old Wesley Graham had worked at Riverside Market for 12 years, ever since his college scholarship evaporated with his mother's sudden illness. He'd stayed because someone had to pay her medical bills, stayed because leaving felt like abandoning the only family he had, stayed because somewhere along the way, this store and its regulars had become his purpose. He noticed everything. Mrs. Chen, who bought cat food but no cats because she fed the strays behind the strip mall. Old Calvin, who pretended to shop but really just needed human conversation. And now this young mother who'd been coming in weekly, her basket growing smaller each time. 5 customers behind Wesley stood a man who looked like sculpted from marble and money. 33-year-old Julian Ashford, CEO of Ashford Technologies, wore a suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent. He'd stopped in reluctantly, his usual assistant sick, needing organic coffee beans for tomorrow's board meeting. His mother had insisted he handle it himself. "Build character," she said with that dismissive wave he'd inherited. His phone buzzed incessantly with emails he considered more important than the humanity surrounding him. Wesley watched Natalie count coins at the register, her hands shaking as she separated pennies from nickels. Bread, peanut butter, a small bunch of bananas turning brown, discounted to 99 cents, and Sophie's antibiotic prescription from the pharmacy counter. The card reader beeped its rejection. Once, twice, 3 times. Natalie's face flushed crimson. "I'm so sorry, I thought I had. Let me just take off the bananas, and maybe just half the prescription for now." The cashier, a teenager named Bryce, who'd only worked there 3 weeks, shifted uncomfortably. "Ma'am, prescriptions can't be split." "It's okay." Natalie's voice splintered into shards of barely contained desperation. "Just the bread then. Just the bread, please." Sophie tugged her mother's threadbare coat. "Mama, I don't need the medicine. My throat doesn't even hurt anymore." The lie sat heavy in her small voice. She'd been coughing all night. Wesley didn't think. Thinking would have reminded him that his landlord was threatening eviction, that his own mother's medication cost $200 monthly, that his bank account held exactly $43 until Friday. His hand found his wallet, extracted the last $20 bill he'd been saving for gas, and reached forward. "Hey, Bryce, ring this together with mine," Wesley said softly, placing the 20 on the counter, "and add the bananas back. Kids need fruit." Natalie spun around, tears already streaming. "No, I can't. Please, I couldn't possibly." "You're not taking anything from me," Wesley interrupted gently. "You're letting me give something that matters. There's a difference." Their eyes met, his calm and certain, hers drowning in gratitude and shame. Wesley saw himself in her exhaustion, remembered mother choosing between medication and electricity, remembered strangers who'd helped when help was all they had left to give.
Why? Natalie whispered. Because someone did it for me once. Because your daughter shouldn't have to pretend her throat hurts. Wesley's voice carried the weight of lived understanding. Because we're supposed to hold each other up when the world pushes us down. Sophie wrapped her small arms around Wesley's legs. Thank you, mister. You're the food fairy Mama said doesn't exist. Behind them, Julian had witnessed everything. His phone hung forgotten in his hand. That voice, that impossibly familiar voice that had once whispered, "I love you," in the darkness of their college dorm. The voice that said, "I can't marry you," when Julian's parents demanded he choose between family fortune and a relationship with someone they deemed directionless. 8 years dissolved. Julian's chest constricted. Wesley? The name came out strangled. Wesley turned, groceries still in hand, and the color drained from his face like water from a broken glass. Time folded in on itself. Julian? Not a question, a statement of impossible reality. Natalie, clutching her bag, looked between them. The cashier stopped mid-scan. Sophie, sensing adult complexity beyond her understanding, pressed closer to her mother. Julian stepped forward, his composure, that carefully constructed CEO facade, crumbling. That woman, the one you just helped, his voice barely functioned. That's Natalie Ashford, my ex-wife. The supermarket seemed to inhale and hold its breath. Wesley's confusion must have been written across his face because Julian continued, each word extracted like a confession under oath. We married 4 years ago. My parents, they hated her, said she was using me, that a social worker could never understand our world. Shame painted his features. I divorced her when she got pregnant, told myself I was protecting the family name, protecting the company. My father convinced me Sophie wasn't even mine, that Natalie had trapped me. Natalie made a sound like a wounded animal. Sophie, frightened, buried her face in her mother's coat. I stopped the support payments 6 months ago, Julian continued, his voice breaking. My mother said Natalie was probably fine, probably remarried. I didn't check. I didn't want to know. The silence was devastating. Wesley looked at Natalie, at Sophie, at the man who had once been his entire world. You stopped supporting your daughter? The question carried no judgment, only profound sadness. I convinced myself she wasn't mine, Julian whispered. But she has my eyes. I can see it now. I just didn't want to see it then. Natalie found her voice, cold and sharp. You don't get to do this. You don't get to have a revelation in a grocery store and pretend 8 years of abandonment can be fixed with recognition. I know. Julian's tears came freely now, his expensive suit suddenly looking like a costume. I know I don't, but watching Wesley just now, watching him give his last money to you without knowing who you were, without wanting anything back. He was always like this, even when we were together, even when my parents called him worthless. He gave everything to everyone, his sick mother, his neighbors, strangers on the street, and I chose money over him. I chose my parents' approval over love, and then I did the same thing to you.
He pulled out his wallet with shaking hands, withdrawing a business card and pen. He wrote quickly, then handed it to Wesley, not Natalie. This is my personal banker's number. I'm transferring $100,000 into an account for Sophie, not for me to feel better, not for forgiveness. His voice fractured completely. Because Wesley just showed me that giving when you have nothing is worth more than having everything and giving nothing, and I'm so tired of being nothing. Wesley stared at the card, then at Julian. Why give it to me? Because I don't trust myself not to make it about my guilt, because you'll make sure it actually helps them. Julian looked at Natalie, at Sophie. Because I need to learn how to be kind without needing credit. And I think I need to learn from the man I should have become. The weeks that followed were painful and slow. Natalie accepted the money through Wesley, who'd set up an anonymous trust. She didn't want Julian's proximity, but she couldn't let pride hurt Sophie. Wesley became the unexpected bridge, not between former lovers, but between a man trying to atone and a woman learning to accept help without losing herself. Julian started therapy. He volunteered at food banks, worked in soup kitchens, learned the names of people he'd never noticed before. He asked nothing of Natalie, offered no demands for Sophie. Instead, he sent monthly updates through Wesley, what he was learning, how he was changing, photographs of him serving meals and sorting donations. Natalie began working as a social worker again, her degree dusted off and renewed. The financial stability allowed her to breathe. Wesley became Sophie's unofficial uncle, teaching her about kindness through action, not words. 6 months later, Wesley organized a community dinner at Riverside Market for struggling families. Julian showed up, not in his suit, but in jeans and a volunteer shirt. He worked a serving line beside Wesley, dishing out food, learning humility one plate at a time. Natalie came with Sophie. She'd known Julian would be there. Wesley had asked permission first. She watched her ex-husband kneel to speak with a homeless veteran, watched him listen without checking his phone, watched him transform into someone she didn't recognize. Later, as they cleaned up, Natalie approached him. "Wesley told me you've been volunteering for months, that you sold your penthouse and moved into a regular apartment, that you donated most of your inheritance to family support organizations." "I'm not looking for recognition," Julian said quietly. "I'm looking for redemption, and I'm learning they're not the same thing." Sophie tugged Julian's sleeve, the first time she'd ever approached him directly. "Mister, are you the sad man Wesley talks about, the one learning to be kind?" Julian's eyes filled. He kneeled to her level. "Yes, sweetheart, I'm trying very hard to learn." "Wesley says trying is the bravest thing people can do." Sophie's wisdom, gathered from Wesley's patient teaching, shone through. "Are you my daddy? Mama said my daddy was lost, but Wesley says lost people can be found if they want to be." The question hung in the air, like a benediction and a judgment. Julian looked at Natalie, asking permission. She nodded, tears streaming. "I am," Julian whispered, "and I've been lost for a very long time, but I'm trying to find my way back. Not to you and your mama, I know I don't deserve that, but to myself, to the person I should have been all along." Sophie considered this with 4-year-old seriousness. "Okay, you can sit with us at dinner next time, but only if you're still trying." 1 year later, Julian had left Ashford Technologies entirely. He'd started a nonprofit supporting single parents, funded by his own savings. Natalie ran the organization's social work division. Wesley managed their volunteer coordination. They weren't a traditional family. Julian and Natalie would never reconcile romantically. That bridge burned beyond repair. But they were something more honest. On Sophie's 6th birthday, she blew out her candles surrounded by 3 adults who'd learned that love isn't about perfection, it's about showing up, especially when showing up costs everything. "What did you wish for, baby?" Natalie asked. Sophie looked at Wesley, then Julian, then her mother. "I wished that everyone could learn to be kind like Uncle Wesley taught Daddy, so nobody has to be lost anymore." Wesley's hand found Julian's shoulder. Julian covered it with his own, years of pain and learning compressed into a single gesture of forgiveness neither had asked for, but both needed. "You know what I realized that day in the supermarket when I saw you give your last $20? I realized I'd spent 8 years believing wealth was what I owned, but you showed me wealth is what you give when giving costs you everything." We all lose ourselves sometimes. The question isn't whether we get lost, it's whether we're brave enough to ask for directions back.
because kindness isn't a transaction. It's not a $20 bill or a $100,000 transfer. It's the willingness to see someone's pain and choose to lighten it, even when, especially when, helping costs you something you can't afford to lose. It's showing up when showing up is hard. It's becoming better than you were, not for applause, but because someone else's example showed you who you could be. And sometimes the greatest gift we give isn't money or time. It's showing someone else that change is possible, that lost can become found, that the person you were doesn't have to be the person you remain.
If this story touched your heart, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Let's spread more stories of kindness and hope together.